In the vast Xia Empire, deep within the thriving city of Qingyong, thousands of young people dreamed of awakening extraordinary powers and changing their futures forever. On this important day, Qingyong First Academy was conducting its annual class awakening ceremony, an event that could determine whether a student would rise to greatness or spend the rest of their life living as an ordinary person. Every student had trained and studied for years in preparation for this moment. A powerful class could bring wealth, influence, fame, and opportunities that most people could never imagine, while receiving a weak class could limit someone's future before their journey had even begun. Because of this, the academy grounds were packed with nervous students, excited teachers, and curious spectators. One candidate after another stepped onto the awakening platform, but the results were disappointing. More than 100 students completed the ritual, yet most received ordinary combat classes, basic support abilities, or professions with very little growth potential. The principal remained patient, but even he was beginning to wonder whether the academy would produce any exceptional talent that year. Then Xu Xiaoqing stepped onto the platform. Unlike the students before her, Xiaoqing appeared calm and confident. She was already recognized as one of the academy's greatest geniuses, and almost everyone expected her to awaken an impressive class. However, nobody was prepared for what happened next. The instant the awakening ritual began, a brilliant golden light erupted from the platform. Sacred energy swept across the academy grounds and illuminated the surrounding buildings as though a second sun had appeared above the city. The crowd instinctively covered their eyes, while several students stepped backward in shock. At first, many assumed Xiaoqing was awakening an advanced class. Considering her talent and reputation, such a result would not have surprised anyone. But as the golden radiance continued growing stronger, people quickly realized that their prediction might be far too modest. An advanced class should not be capable of producing a phenomenon powerful enough to affect the entire academy. The light surrounding Xiaoqing felt warm, peaceful, and strangely divine. Even the air seemed different, as though an invisible sacred presence had descended from the heavens. Some students immediately suggested that she might have awakened a rare class. Others believed the result could be even greater. Meanwhile, the principal watched from beside the platform with growing satisfaction. After witnessing more than 100 average awakenings, he finally felt that the academy's luck was beginning to change. Xiaoqing had always possessed exceptional potential, and now she was proving that everyone's expectations had been justified. However, the awakening phenomenon was still far from finished. The golden energy began gathering above the platform, slowly becoming denser and brighter. Under the astonished gaze of the crowd, the light gradually transformed into the shape of an enormous weapon. Excited voices spread throughout the academy as students pointed toward the sky. Moments later, a majestic heavenly figure appeared behind Xiaoqing. The divine being possessed enormous wings and carried a gigantic sword made entirely from sacred light. Its presence was so overwhelming that the noisy crowd became silent almost instantly. Even people standing far from the platform could feel the pressure released by the apparition. At that moment, everyone understood that they were witnessing something far beyond an ordinary awakening. After carefully examining the result, the principal stepped forward with visible excitement. He loudly announced that Xu Xiaoqing had awakened an epic class possessing sacred attributes at their highest possible level. Her awakened profession was the Seraphim, while her soul-bound weapon was known as the Sword of Holy Light. For several seconds, nobody reacted. The result was simply too extraordinary. Then the entire academy erupted into celebration. Students shouted Xiaoqing's name and praised her incredible power. Some immediately began calling her the goddess of Qingyong First Academy. Their excitement was understandable because even awakening an advanced class was considered a major achievement. A rare class could turn an ordinary student into one of the most valuable talents in the city. But Xiaoqing had awakened an epic class with maximum sacred attributes, meaning her future potential might be far greater than anyone could currently predict. Among the crowd stood Wei Chiao, the academy's highest-ranked theoretical student. As he observed the enormous angel behind Xiaoqing, even he had to admit that her awakening was impressive. Still, unlike most students, Wei Chiao understood that receiving a powerful class was only the beginning. A rare profession could provide an enormous advantage, but its true strength depended on how effectively its owner developed it. This strange world had not always possessed awakened warriors, supernatural classes, secret realms, or monsters. 300 years earlier, mysterious spatial vortexes suddenly appeared across the planet without any warning. Nobody understood where they came from or what existed beyond them. At first, many governments believed the vortexes were unusual natural phenomena. Unfortunately, humanity soon discovered the truth in the worst possible way. Those unstable portals connected their world to unknown dimensions that eventually became known as secret realms. Soon afterward, terrifying creatures emerged from them. Powerful beasts attacked cities, destroyed settlements, and slaughtered countless people. Entire regions collapsed beneath endless waves of monsters, while ordinary weapons proved nearly useless against the strongest creatures. Humanity entered an age of fear, and civilization came dangerously close to destruction. Then people began awakening supernatural classes. Those who successfully awakened gained enhanced attributes, unique skills, soul-bound weapons, and the ability to become stronger by defeating monsters and exploring secret realms. As awakened humans increased their levels, their abilities evolved, allowing them to fight enemies that ordinary people could never challenge. That discovery gave humanity the power to resist. Over the following centuries, awakened warriors reclaimed lost territories and gradually established a new civilization built around classes, levels, equipment, and secret realm exploration. Eventually, all known classes were separated into 5 official categories: basic, intermediate, advanced, rare, and epic. However, ancient records suggested that epic classes might not represent the true limit. Rumors spoke of mysterious hidden professions existing outside the recognized ranking system. These classes were extremely uncommon, and their abilities often ignored the normal rules followed by ordinary awakened people. Very little reliable information existed because only a small number of hidden class users had appeared throughout history. As Wei Chiao watched Xiaoqing receive everyone's admiration, he quietly thought about his own journey. Ever since arriving on this game-like planet through transmigration, he had prepared himself for this exact moment. He understood that knowledge could become an enormous advantage, so he spent years studying monsters, secret realms, equipment, class abilities, combat strategies, and awakening theories. His effort allowed him to rank first in every theoretical examination. No student in the academy had managed to surpass him academically, including Xu Xiaoqing. However, theoretical knowledge could only take someone so far. The class he awakened would decide whether all those years of preparation had been worthwhile. After the golden phenomenon disappeared, the principal personally congratulated Xiaoqing. With obvious pride, he explained that she was the first person in Qinglong City to awaken an epic-level class that year. Xiaoqing thanked him respectfully and promised that she would continue training seriously. However, before leaving the platform, she turned toward Wei Chiao. For several years, he had remained one step ahead of her. Whenever she believed she had finally achieved the highest examination score, Wei Chiao somehow performed slightly better. No matter how much effort she invested, his name remained above hers in the rankings. Clearly, she had never forgotten those defeats. Looking directly at him, Xiaoqing declared that their competition would finally end differently. Now that she possessed an epic seraphim class, she intended to prove which of them deserved to be called the Academy's true genius. The surrounding students immediately supported her. Some confidently claimed that Wei Chiao had no possibility of defeating someone with an epic sacred class. Others said Xiaoqing had already won before his awakening even began. However, Wei Chiao remained calm. He had waited years for this opportunity, and he had no intention of becoming discouraged before discovering his own power. Soon afterward, the principal called the next participant. The moment Wei Chiao's name echoed across the academy grounds, the crowd became noisy again. Everyone understood that it was finally the turn of the academy's highest-ranked student. Some students became excited and wondered whether the academy might witness a second extraordinary awakening. If Xiaoqing had received an epic class, perhaps Wei Chiao could produce another miracle. However, several students immediately rejected that possibility. They argued that theoretical intelligence had nothing to do with awakening talent. Memorizing information might help someone pass examinations, but it could not guarantee a powerful class. Others confidently declared that nobody would surpass their newly crowned goddess. The principal, however, watched Wei Chiao with genuine expectation. In his opinion, the young man possessed enormous potential. If he awakened another epic class, Qingyong First Academy would immediately gain fame throughout the entire region. Producing 2 epic class students in the same year would be an achievement that many academies could not accomplish in decades. Under the attention of the entire crowd, Wei Chiao calmly walked onto the awakening platform. He placed himself at the center of the formation and waited for the ritual to begin. Moments later, golden energy erupted around him. The crowd became excited, believing that another sacred phenomenon might be appearing. But before anyone could celebrate, something completely unexpected happened. The bright sky suddenly became dark. Black clouds spread above the academy at an unnatural speed, blocking every trace of sunlight. The temperature dropped sharply, and an icy sensation passed through the crowd. Students looked around nervously, unable to understand why the atmosphere had changed so dramatically. During Xiaoqing's awakening, the academy had become warm and peaceful. Her divine angel filled everyone with comfort and sacred energy. Wei Chiao's phenomenon was the complete opposite. The air felt cold, heavy, and filled with an invisible pressure that made breathing difficult. Then someone pointed toward the sky and shouted for everyone to look upward. The crowd followed the student's gaze, and panic immediately spread across the academy. Countless skeletons had appeared among the dark clouds. Behind them moved enormous shadowy figures resembling an endless army of the dead. Some students screamed while others instinctively moved away from the platform. Everyone understood that the creatures were only supernatural illusions created by the awakening ritual, yet their presence felt disturbingly real. The principal stared at the phenomenon in complete disbelief. During his many years at the academy, he had witnessed thousands of awakenings, but he had never encountered anything so unusual. Instead of becoming frightened, excitement slowly appeared in his eyes. Such an enormous phenomenon could not possibly belong to an ordinary class. Perhaps the heavens had prepared another incredible talent for his academy. Xiaoqing also watched the dark army with a serious expression. She knew the skeletons were not physically present, but the freezing pressure surrounding them still made her uncomfortable. She could not understand how an illusion possessed enough power to create such a terrifying sensation. Meanwhile, Wei Chiao was having the exact opposite reaction. While everyone else trembled, his excitement continued increasing. This was the kind of awakening he had hoped for. The black sky, endless undead army, an overwhelming supernatural pressure all suggested that his class was anything but ordinary. To Wei Chiao, the experience felt like receiving the rarest possible reward in a game. He could barely contain his excitement. Then purple energy began swirling above the platform. The enormous undead phenomenon slowly gathered into a single point. Everyone watched carefully as the energy started forming an object. After witnessing such an unbelievable display, the crowd expected a legendary sword, an ancient magical staff, or perhaps a forbidden artifact connected to death itself. Instead, the purple light disappeared and revealed a shovel. Wei Chiao stared at the weapon. The student stared at the weapon. Even the principal remained silent for several seconds because he was not certain how to react. After producing an awakening phenomenon terrifying enough to darken the entire sky, Wei Chiao had received what appeared to be an ordinary shovel. Confused, the protagonist looked at the object and wondered whether something had gone wrong. The principal carefully examined the awakening information before announcing the result. Wei Chiao had awakened a hidden class known as Undead Summoner. The moment the words hidden class were spoken, excitement returned to the crowd. However, the principal then revealed that Wei Chiao's soulbound weapon was a shovel. The academy became silent once again. A second later, nearly everyone burst into laughter. Some students mocked Wei Chiao, saying that such a terrifying awakening had ended with nothing more than a golden digging tool. Others questioned what kind of undead summoner fought enemies using a shovel. One student even announced that he planned to upload the event to social media with a title describing the academy's top student as a child preparing to play in the sand. The laughter became louder. Xiaoqing crossed her arms with a confident expression. From her perspective, the competition had already been decided. She possessed an epic seraphim class and a sacred sword, while Wei Chiao appeared to have received a strange summoning profession and farming equipment. However, Wei Chiao refused to accept the crowd's conclusion. The enormous awakening phenomenon could not have appeared without a reason. There had to be something hidden beneath the ridiculous appearance of his weapon. Instead of judging his class based on what others could see, he opened his personal status window. The information revealed his name as Wei Chiao and his class as Undead Summoner. He was currently level 0 with 11 points in strength, 12 points in agility, and 30 points in spirit. His soul-bound weapon possessed the mysterious name Curse of the Fallen. Wei Chiao then examined his first ability. It was a G-rank skill called Summon Skeleton Mage. The skill allowed him to create a Tier 0 Skeleton Mage that would continue evolving alongside its summoner. More importantly, every summon consumed only 0.1 spirit points. At first, the ability did not appear impressive. Skeleton Mags were considered some of the weakest undead creatures in existence. Most beginner combat classes could defeat one without much difficulty. However, everything changed when Wei Chiao examined his awakened talent. The status window displayed a single name, Immortality. Its rank was SSS. Wei Chiao immediately became serious. According to the description, Immortality allowed him to accumulate summoning effects without a fixed limit. Repeatedly learning the same summoning ability would continuously increase the number of creatures he could create. At that moment, he finally understood the true power of his hidden class. Ordinary summoners could maintain only a limited number of contracted creatures. Many beginners struggle to control even one summon, while stronger professionals might command several. Wei Chiao did not possess that restriction. As long as he had enough spiritual energy, he could continue creating undead creatures repeatedly. One weak skeleton was almost useless. 10 could become troublesome. Hundreds could overwhelm powerful opponents. And if his abilities continued growing, thousands of undead might eventually form an army capable of destroying everything in its path. Wei Chiao could barely hide his excitement. His advantage was not the individual strength of a single summon. His true power was unlimited quantity. This was the hidden ability he had been waiting for. Then his attention returned to the shovel. If his class contained such an extraordinary talent, perhaps his soul-bound weapon also possessed an ability that could not be understood through appearance alone. Wei Chiao opened its detailed information. In its sealed state, the weapon was classified as a Level 1, Tier 0 iron shovel. It granted an additional point to strength, agility, constitution, and skill. Those bonuses were useful but not extraordinary. However, its special effect immediately caught his attention. Whenever Wei Chiao defeated an enemy, he could dig a grave and bury the body to receive additional rewards. After understanding the ability, his disappointment disappeared completely. Defeating monsters would already provide experience, equipment, and materials. But if burying those same monsters produced another reward, he could profit twice from every victory. It was an unusual ability, but it might become unbelievably valuable. While everyone else saw a useless shovel, Wei Chiao saw an opportunity to turn every defeated enemy into additional resources. At that moment, the principal approached and quietly told him to stop examining the weapon. The crowd was waiting for a demonstration. Considering the enormous scale of the awakening phenomenon, the principal believed Wei Chiao's hidden class had to possess powerful abilities. The protagonist agreed and stepped toward the center of the platform. Under everyone's attention, he raised the shovel and activated Summon Skeleton Mage. Purple energy gathered in front of him. A dark magical formation appeared on the ground, and moments later, a skeleton holding an old magical staff emerged from its center. The principal carefully examined the creature. His excitement quickly turned into confusion. It appeared to be an ordinary skeleton mage, one of the lowest-ranked undead monsters. He could not understand how a hidden class capable of creating such a terrifying awakening phenomenon had produced something so weak. Perhaps the skeleton possessed an unusual hidden ability. Maybe its defense was extraordinary, or perhaps its ordinary appearance concealed a special power. Wanting to test that possibility, the principal lightly struck the creature. The skeleton immediately shattered into pieces. Silence spread across the academy. Then the students began laughing even harder than before. Some mocked Wei Chiao because his summon could not survive a single attack. Others pointed out that the principal had barely touched the creature before it collapsed. The academy's highest-ranked student had darkened the sky, summoned an illusionary army of death, awakened a hidden class, and received a mysterious golden shovel, only for his first undead creature to break instantly. However, Wei Chiao did not become embarrassed. Instead, he smiled. He calmly admitted that one low-level skeleton mage was weak. That fact was obvious. But everyone was focusing on the wrong detail. The strength of one skeleton had never been important. Before the principal could ask what he meant, Wei Chiao activated the summoning ability again. Another magical circle appeared. Then a second circle formed beside it. A third appeared moments later. Skeleton mags began emerging one after another. At first, the crowd continued laughing, but their voices gradually became quieter. 5 skeletons surrounded Wei Chiao. Then 10. Then 20. The summoning continued without any sign of stopping. More undead creatures appeared across the platform until dozens of skeleton mags stood behind the protagonist. The students became completely silent. Only moments earlier, they had mocked a single weak creature. Now they were staring at an entire undead legion. The principal watched in disbelief as the number continued increasing. Even if every skeleton was individually weak, defeating all of them would require enormous effort. More importantly, Wei Chiao had created the entire army in only a few moments. Standing before his undead forces, the protagonist calmly turned toward the crowd. Then, with a confident smile, he asked them one simple question: if one skeleton is too weak, how do you plan to deal with all of them? Nobody answered. Suddenly, the academy's weakest summon did not seem weak anymore.